thank you for being here. This is the last event of the Encode Polkadot Club education part. We will be moving on to some hacking from September and then the accelerator, but this is the last education event. We've had a great series so far, and if you have missed any of the events, I'm going to repaste my big chunk of links here, and you can go back and look at all the YouTubes, all the events, from technical introductions, having parachains come and talk, having startups come and talk, and generally giving you a good basis in the Polkadot ecosystem for which to go on and learn more, and we hope do great things. Today's event is called Applications to Society, and we're going to talk about how can you use Polkadot's technology to build stuff that is both real world facing and crypto world facing, and what does it mean for something to be crypto world facing. I do try and keep these events fairly interactive, so if you do feel free to put things on chat. I prefer if you don't do voice, just because it does slow things down. I've got the chat window open, so do feel free to ask any questions you have on the chat, and I will get to those. So I want to start off with a general question, which is, what does a crypto society look like? I don't mean society like we're a student club. I mean specifically, what does a crypto world look like in the future, where crypto technology, blockchain technology, Polkadot technology is pervasive. I'm going to assume with this event that each of you know and have done some of the previous events and know about Polkadot, know about blockchain. We won't go into kind of what is blockchain, what is Polkadot. I'm assuming some level of kind of knowledge here, or at least broad knowledge about blockchain. And when I talk about this thing about what does a crypto society look like, we're really projecting, I think, 10 to 20 years in the future. And it's the use of crypto technology widely in society. And what exactly does this actually mean? Some of you might have thoughts. Feel free to put them in the chat on what you think a crypto world looks like, a world where crypto technology is used. And I actually have a definition of success here, or a definition of pervasiveness, which is the day when your parents know what blockchain is without thinking Bitcoin. I'm sure if any of you have ever spoken to someone who doesn't know about crypto, they immediately say Bitcoin, and actually use Bitcoin as a catch-all term to refer to the market, whereas I used crypto as the catch-all term. More broadly, blockchain, even though that describes the underlying technology. But it's the day in which people understand, they know about blockchain for blockchain and have a rough understanding of what it is, in the same way they have a rough understanding of how mobile works. Yeah, probably not grandparents, but like your grandparents also don't use Discord, or don't use don't probably use what's the thing, or Instagram or something. So, but parents do use Instagram. So anyway, this is my test. And I think you have to start by looking at the principles of crypto to understand what the society actually looks like. And the principles of crypto, broadly three of them. Sorry, I'm just going to mute you. No, I'm going to mute you. I'm sorry, I'm going to mute you. Please, if you want to ask questions, please put them on chat. The question has already come in. Do you see your grandchildren using it? Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, again, if we're using it, people will be very much crypto native. And we'll talk about what crypto nativity means a little bit later. But there's basically three fundamental principles there. It's being decentralized, it's self-sovereignty, it's being permissionless, and the fourth one, which is being open. And what I mean by this is very simple. It's this idea that I self-custodize my money. I don't rely on a bank necessarily. I have the keys to my own funds. I control this. It's not like I can access my funds. They're mine. I can access them at any time. No one can stop me being involved in a crypto system. And we'll talk about, maybe that doesn't just mean money. The companies that are built around crypto are decentralized. They don't have monopolies running them. Everyone can participate in their governance. And things are open. It's very easy to quickly innovate on things because technology is not kept behind closed doors. It's open for everyone to see, which makes innovation much faster. And then we kind of get to a world where quite frankly, it's based on a completely different set of principles. And the easiest way to understand that is money. So right now, money is this thing that if you want to send money overseas, it's very hard. If you want to go and, let's say you're worth 100K, getting 100K out of a bank is like very hard in cash. This is all going to be recorded and it will go up on YouTube tomorrow morning at Augusto. In crypto, money A is accessible to anyone at any point. B can be transferred to anyone extremely fast with no middlemen. And this creates a completely different system, particularly financial system, which is the primitives on which you can build other things. And last but not least, the massive benefit here, and again, we talked in general terms, we'll talk specifically about Polkadot in a minute, is that not only can you send money, receive money, and custodize your money, have your money in such a more accessible way, but it is embedded in the web technology that you already use on a day-to-day basis. For any of you that have used Polkadot.js wallets, which is just the wallet used to interact with Polkadot, or MetaMask or Ethereum, this is in your browser. If you go to a website, it says, do you want to connect this wallet? Money is intimately connected to the applications that use money. And this is not the same in the real world. Like anyone who's ever maybe, I don't know, run an online business and tried to connect money to receive money into it, it's always a very hard administrative and difficult process that is not smooth. Whereas crypto, I can build money and ownership of things directly into my website or my application extremely quickly. And this is a complete game changer to what a crypto society looks like. It just changes how money works. Money is easier, money is not gate kept, and I can build money and a completely different type of transaction into my day-to-day application. And we'll talk about what this means in a second. What this broadly means is that in this world, in the same way that you don't really understand how banks work, protocols like Polkadot should be invisible to the end user. So this is like quite a big kind of statement here, that actually you guys are the select few. You understand, I hope and broadly, how Polkadot works. You understand that it is and we'll just do a quick recap here. It is effectively a blockchain for which you can build other mini blockchains that each rely on one bigger kind of engine, the relay network, the relay chain, to verify transactions. And that you can scale smaller blockchains, the parachains, as using the main engine, but doing their own specialized thing. And actually, the big takeaway is you don't actually need to know you shouldn't in an ideal world need to know how a blockchain system broadly works. In the same way, you don't really know how the internet really works and don't really know how banks work. You should just know that, oh, there is this thing. Many of you probably are familiar when you buy a computer what an Intel processor is. I really don't understand. You know, Intel are a big company, but don't understand how Intel works. I think what the future looks like is you'll know this thing called Polkadots, that is this big network is the right term to use, not company. But you won't really understand how it works, and that is absolutely fine. It should be invisible to the end user. It should be hidden behind kind of layers of easy user interface. So I'm going to now, through the rest of the session, use Polkadot interchangeably with blockchain. I'm going to assume that Polkadot is and I agree with this statement already, a great blockchain and will be used as a blockchain. But I'm not necessarily going to paint the path by which Polkadot becomes the only blockchain used, because actually there are many. No one knows if Ethereum is going to win, if Polkadot's going to win, if many coexist, if different have different niches. So the rest of this event, when I talk about applications to society, I mean blockchain applications to society, and I'm going to assume in general that blockchain means Polkadot, and in a few instances unpack what Polkadot specifically brings to the table versus, say, something like Ethereum or other competing layer ones. But again, I don't want this to be a general kind of it's perhaps an hypothesis of this event that actually most blockchains are broadly the same, and the ones that win is not going to be decided on technological terms. We can actually, if someone wants to get into it later, we can look into what will be the difference between one blockchain winning or another. So I want to start off with kind of one section of ideas, which is crypto for the real world. And again, I use crypto to refer to this set of all things involving blockchain. And broadly, you have some basic problems here to begin with. One is custody. Now, if there's anyone here who hasn't ever held crypto funds before, tell me. I will do a brief explanation, but I'm going to kind of assume everyone has used crypto before, traded crypto. And what you'll be very familiar with from the get-go is the fact that you have to, one has to hold one's own private key. And if you lose access to the private key, you effectively lose access to your funds. There's no kind of safeguard. Good startups are starting to emerge that do provide safeguards, but in general, there are no safeguards to losing your money. And this means that, again, I'm going to mute the person who is unmuted themselves just because for the smoothness of the event and the recording. But this means that if you're trying to get people to use crypto, it's kind of very hard to teach them that the responsibility they have of their assets. Again, I see this as a fantastic thing. That's like, I hold my asset, no one else does. Like, no one can stop me holding my assets. But it does mean in general that it requires an education of onboarding that makes the process difficult of attracting users. So the first problem is custody. The second problem is onboarding. Again, this has been an ACE event series to teach people about blockchain and Polkadot, but like not everyone gets this onboarding. So eventually you need to get to a stage where the process for becoming a crypto user is extremely easy and simple, and many people have done it such that when a new person joins, it's you just ask your friend for advice. How do I do this? And it's like a 5-minute setup. And right now, actually, it's not simple. Anyone who's ever first got into crypto, it's like not the simplest process. It's kind of opaque. It's kind of hard. So the process of onboarding people to use crypto, which basically means having a wallet that has funds in it and allows me to interact with applications that use crypto. It's basically like the internet. This has to be smoother. And the third aspect is fiat gateways, because the real world operates through fiat. Fiat means cash, dollars, pounds, euros. And the problem with this is that moving from crypto to fiat is an expensive thing, and it's expensive because it has to be highly regulated, because it's more difficult to track the movement of crypto funds than it is because crypto is not linked to a public identity. Fiat is linked to a public identity, and therefore you have to do a lot of administrative stuff when you move money in and out of crypto to fiat, which is expensive and time consuming. So the fiat gateways are there, everyone's used them, but they're not instantaneous in the same way crypto is. By the way, is a big reason why digital currencies, those who are aware, central bank digital currencies, and digital currency in general, and using crypto as like pure money is such a great use case. And the biggest use case of like what is the applications to society, people not using dots, but using stable coins built on Polkadots. And we can go into stable coins. They're just coins that broadly have a monetary system that fixes their value or maintains a stable value, so you can use them for paying stuff. Because I don't know if we actually got paid in dot once, and then like within a month dot had gone down by half, and like we'd forgot to sell and we suddenly had half as much money. Like this is a problem. Like you can't run a business with this volatility. So fiat gateways have to be there, but it's actually the fact that fiat gateways are so bad is such a good argument for there being having crypto as money. And it's like the biggest application of society is money is crypto, and crypto is instantaneous transactions that are like don't want geography does not matter. This is actually the biggest use case of the biggest application, and we really will start to see this going forward. I implore you to kind of look at stable coins in particular, because they are incredibly cool. So I'm going to now talk about a few kind of general areas that are kind of obvious to you, but just to give you kind of a hint of what, I'll take a question. Ahmad says, what do we used to have blockchain which had gas fees and some sort of stable coin? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't see why not. Different places have different, basically what you want with gas fees is predictability. Because like I did a transaction that I didn't realize it cost me $100, which was like a large percentage of the overall transaction. And like that's obviously unsustainable. So yeah, that'd be cool. Polkadot gas fees are really pretty low. So if they're negligibly priced, then it doesn't really matter. And some chains like Algorand just don't have gas fees, or their gas fees are so low. And miners, the reason Ethereum gas fees are so high is miners make money off the gas fee. It's an incentive. This is just something to bear in mind. I'm just going to take a break here because I've noticed some questions coming on Discord. Cool. So the first application is law, and the reason is law is basically the idea of rather than having written contracts, we have these things called smart contracts. Now, for those of you that joined us for the early lectures and are more familiar with this, smart contracts. Oh, I've gone back one. Smart contracts are you don't necessarily do them on Polkadot per se. You do them on a parachain, like a sub blockchain, and a smart contract is automatically executing code. And the reason this is kind of so important is because it allows us to build a code that builds systems that run autonomously, like systems that run automatically without the need for verification or kind of human interaction. And this is a completely different ballgame. But like the word suggests, they are smart contracts. They are contracts, and they introduce a whole new kind of, because these self-execute, they are binding, and we would like to think are legally binding. And this introduces a whole completely new area of law where, there's eventually going to need to be developers who are also legal experts, or who work in tandem with legal experts, who write these contracts in such a way that they are legal and they are watertight and yeah, proper contracts. And again, most of them run well already, but in the cases of big financial transactions, I imagine eventually some smart contracts will need to be effectively regulated, and then lawyers need to be involved, and we will get a whole new, I'm pretty sure, I know some law firms already have this, a whole new division of law firms, a whole new area of law, which is the law of code. Or code as law, in which case will need specialists. And that's, by the way, a completely new skill set. So if you're someone who is into legal tech, like, wow, you might do very well in the next 10 years. Because again, these contracts will eventually need to be scrutinized and scrutinized legally to see if what they're doing is actually legal. And yeah, so this is a big kind of growth area. So as it is in the name, smart contracts, law is a particularly kind of massive change. And yeah, I would expect to see this application really grow. And the second aspect is actually supply chains. Now, a lot of these first ones I'm going to mention are the stereotype ones, and actually there's not been any big innovations here. We'll go into things which have big innovations. There actually haven't been that big innovations in law so far, but supply chains is an obvious one. And what we're doing here is we're basically trying to solve it's called a problem called tragedy of the commons. This is an economic concept, how do I say, conceptualized by Eleanor Ostrom, who run, I think, a Nobel Prize in economics. And basically it says this: how do you get people to, for their own benefit, share information? She did, okay, good. How do you get people for their own benefit to share information? Because the problem is, if you had, and she conceptualized this idea where you have a kind of a plot of land where everyone maybe owns a kind of a cow, and the cows need to eat the grass, and you send your cow to this farm, and the cow eats the grass, and like, it's in your interest to let your cow eat the grass, eat as much as possible. Eventually the grass is going to die. Now the problem is no one in this farm really has an incentive to kind of pay for it themselves. The actual incentive is to group together to kind of pay for the maintenance of the grass, or maybe agree a scheme by which you kind of regulate the use of the grass so all cows can do well. But if they don't kind of agree something, if they don't work together, like, the cow's going to die, they won't have enough food. And this is called the tragedy of the commons. You get these kind of areas where it's in everyone's interest to do something, but it's no one person's interest to do it without the other. And so you need some way of kind of, very good, thank you. You need some way of, how do you say, some way of bring groups together. And supply chains is kind of one of them, because basically what you ideally want to have is public information about, I don't know, supply chain routes and which ships are where, and like, I don't know, what are the global supplies of something. And if you remember, in particular, we saw how kind of sensitive supply chains are when that ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. And yeah, anyway, in general, you want to share this kind of information about how global supply chains work, so we can globally plan for these kind of scenarios. And the issue with this is that it's not in any one person's interest to share this. So you could think of blockchains, if you think of them as databases, Polkadot, again, you would build this on perhaps a specific kind of parachain, or maybe as a smart contract or something like Moonbeam or Macala or something. But some sort of public database where you maintain global supply information for the benefit of lots of companies and lots of producers, and you maybe have some reward for people for making this information public. This is a very loose thing. It's particularly prevalent in shipping, especially because everything at the moment is written down in shipping. It's not kind of digitally maintained. But yeah, I haven't seen anything great there so far, but it is good to kind of be aware this is what it would look like. I will come to a general point about why I think this actually doesn't work in a minute. Finance, we're going to talk about later, but as you can think of finance in two ways. Either crypto has this thing called DeFi, we've talked about a lot, decentralized finance, which is using this principle of like internet money is so easy to use, and building lots of programmable things using smart contracts on top of that. So there is one world where DeFi just takes off and consumes CeFi, normal finance. Or there's a more likely world in which CeFi, normal finance, continues as it is and starts to adopt, within the current business model of private companies and closed systems, starts to adopt the use of crypto techniques. So like smart contracts as order books is like a really good example. Or like tokenization of assets, so you can like fractionalize things that otherwise can't be fractionalized. Like property is like a very good example. So one obviously application is you just start to take crypto primitives and you apply it to kind of rebuilding finance. The only problem here is that if you're Morgan Stanley, you don't really want to use a big open source network. You kind of want to do things in a private way. So the application to Polkadot here would be maybe there's a parachain that's effectively a private blockchain where there's kind of some level of privacy or identity or verification to make sure that a user is who they say they are. On that note, I'm just going to plug my charger in because I don't get very good alerts on this laptop. So just to make sure I don't die, because this has 100% happened previously to me, I've died in the middle of a session. So is that going to work? No. Has that worked? No. Has that worked? No. I didn't turn the plug on. Fantastic. Very good. Okay, so continuing on. Government is obviously the next one, and we'll talk about again in terms of crypto things, but basically we'll talk about the idea here of identity. And in this context, identity means having a digital identity. Like most of you, if you've interacted with governments, interacted with your government, you normally have some sort of account that is government maintained, which is like, I don't know about the UK is pretty good, but usually you have like one account for your passport, one account for your healthcare. It's like not really consolidated. So why not have one digital account for which you interact with the whole of government? There's a reason not to do this. We can get to the moral side of it. But if you have this, you could start having voting on the blockchain. Like this is like an obvious one. Or I could, if I'm moving between countries, maybe it'd be much more, data would be much more interoperable. I could also own my data, which brings us on to the next side of things, that if the way I interact with the world is through an account where I can grant permissions directly for all that, I could easily use this centralized account, which is actually blockchain. You have your wallet is just yours. Identity, which is your centralized account. I can rescind access at any time. And particularly for any of you, those that like deleted Facebook accounts and wondered if Facebook still have like your data, this is like quite a nice little use case. So this ability to have one digital account, which I use, which I rescind access. The problem with this, unfortunately, is that governments will want to identify you, which means governments will want to have this more as a private database, not a public database, which means governments have control and consensus. So this is not a perfect science. And the last one is kind of community, which is, I think, blockchain because it's you typically have these decentralized structures where people are usually very incentivized to be part of them, usually because token models mean that because these systems are so big, they need lots of users and lots of money, which means you have lots of battery owners. And if you own something, you're incentivized to contribute to its success. So basically token models are like much better for like building communities per se. You may have different views on this, but this is one such approach to it. Art is an obvious one coming up. NFTs, digital art, using VR, and again, having assets that's art being an asset that I can move at any time is obviously a big growth area, and we can talk about that a little bit later. Now, the problem with this is again, the problem I mentioned earlier is kind of a broader problem with power. And this problem with power is that again, if you're trying to create a big public decentralized system, you basically have to cede the running of it to code. Like the code is law, and you have to basically allow any actor to take part. And the problem with this is like governments and banks and people that run communities are going to be very loath to do this for fear that it will become out of control. And so this is like something very big to bear in mind. This is crypto for the real world has this broader problem, which is, where is it? Which is like, well, to do this, the real world system kind of has to like embrace permissionlessness and censorship resistance. And there's a reason why we might want these two qualities. So this is something to kind of bear in mind, which is why you get this kind of more, I think, relevant access, which is crypto for crypto, and having a brave new world in which the whole world is built on crypto primitives. I did that. I own my own money. No one can stop me doing things. And unfortunately, kind of at its biggest level is something that is outside the sphere of normal government and day-to-day society. And I think this is morally problematic or ethically problematic for obvious reasons, particularly due to kind of particularly due to how you think what the role of the state should be, how interventionist it should be. There are kind of structures that have been built up over the last hundreds and really thousands of years, particularly in the last 100 years, of the state being quite paternalistic and providing social security and welfare and protections and stopping crime and all these things. And that paternalism requires a central force to maintain it. At times, a central party with force. And that's kind of against the principles of blockchain quite a lot. So I actually am really interested to see what the kind of intersection of this looks like. And again, the crypto economy kind of runs pretty much unregulated now, which is kind of cool and also kind of like the Wild West. So I don't know what this will look like, but I'm now going to start to assume that the principles on which the way the crypto world looks now, which is the Wild West, continues and just gets bigger and more people keep using it. And what does this world actually look like? And obviously DeFi is the thing. So there are no banks. All your money is kept on your wallet with maybe some better ways of doing kind of custody and security and backups. But everything you interact with is through DeFi. So you don't have bank accounts. You have use savings protocols like Aave or Compound, or you don't. How do I say? You don't get insurance through like a typical provider. You get it through a DAO. It's like everything that way you pay for stuff with stable coins. Global remittances are incredibly simple and easy. Like this is this brave new world. Again, I'm not saying it with judgments either way. I'm just saying this is what this world would look like, and it is a world in which it becomes. I would be really interested to see how social security is rebuilt, because it's basically saying to people, you eat what you kill, you are responsible for yourself, go sort yourself out. And the world does not work like this. And the reason governments are there is usually to cater for the people that can't help themselves, or to provide things to people that they can't provide themselves and need to be provided at scale, like security and like defense and like social security. And yeah, I'd be really interested to see how these stuff are built out in a world in which everyone like kind of fights for themselves and like is responsible for their own money. It assumes a level of responsibility, which I'd be really interested to see what this comes out. But let's say the world is to use DeFi. It does redefine how you use money. Money becomes this not just an asset, but basically the key through which you engage with systems, because everything has a price, literally. Like every token, everything I've seen a lot of I'm a big football fan, and I've seen a lot of these like fan tokens. And whilst I don't like the current conception of them, I can 100% see a world where my season ticket to Arsenal is actually linked to a token that has like a value and like has a market to it, and is constantly repriced. And everything I want to do, everything I want to do on the internet is kind of linked to some value. And that allows for the valuation of things that we didn't know could be evaluated. Like, I don't know. I actually don't know what it looks like, but like maybe you're like, the classic example, my interacting with a website and reading something actually earns me money because I'm doing something, I'm actually doing that someone else's service. My being an active part of a community earns me money for providing a social good, because I earn tokens. So like my acts of kind of selflessness actually earn me money in a selfish way through things that could be defined as selfless. It's a completely different way of, you could, again, if and this is also assuming a digital world, so your whole interaction with the world is through the internet. Because money is built in, like if you have a Polkadot wallet, money is there, you click a button, you send it, you go onto a website, you connect your wallet. You can start tracking in the same way I can track what any user does on the internet. Realistically, everyone has an internet history, everyone has a click history, and we know where people have or visited. Maybe I can start using that data to do like microtransactions. Again, there's a complete redefinition of money and also interaction with the internet. And if the internet is all powerful, crypto kind of changes everything. I don't know what this world looks like, but it looks really different and very passive, by the way. NFTs is this obvious thing, and NFTs refer to non-fungible tokens. It doesn't just mean art, it means tokens that represent a unique thing in the world. So the best NFT you have is your address. Your identity in crypto is an NFT. There is no copy of your address somewhere. I am an NFT. I can, I guess, sell myself, sell my account, but it's, I guess you could say, it's a non-transfer of NFT. So NFTs to represent things that are unique on the internet might become a thing, and again allows for the assetization of things that we weren't didn't think were assets, like having a domain or having a, I don't know, being a user with a particular history of trades or engaging with stuff itself becomes like a better NFT. Like myself is my NFT. I am non-fungible. I can generate value off the back of me being me and my kind of uniqueness. I'll answer that question in a sec. Yeah, so anyway, NFTs, obviously the art stuff is very cool, and it completely changes collectability. And again, I'm kind of assuming this digital world, which is kind of scary, and everyone kind of has VR headsets and glasses and all of this jazz, and like everything. Therefore, I'm standing on a table. I've got my laptop on you can't see it, table tennis table right now. Maybe every asset, everything in the world is an NFT. Like everything is in a metaverse. I put my headset on in the morning. If I play table tennis, I'm playing with a bat that's an NFT and a table that's an NFT, and I don't even think about the value of it, but every time I use it I pay a microtransaction, or if I use something in this table tennis table early, transactions come back to me. Anyway, I'm going off topic, but this idea of digitalization of stuff becomes pervasive, and again, everything becomes an asset. And I don't know what this world looks like, but it looks really different. And certainly it's changing the art world right now. Amar says, my stupid question, but the decentralized world creature seems to have a centralized point of failure internet. Is that thing to worry about? Yes, it is. But there is things called there's file storage systems, Filecoin, Arweave, where they basically want to create a decentralized permaware. So the internet itself is pretty damn decentralized, but yeah, they do kind of run on some cool things that could be taken down. It's a really, really good point. So yeah, nicely made. The Polygon thing I'm not going to go into today because this is a Polkadot event. So again, we are talking about blockchain in general, but I do want to kind of stick to Polkadot. Again, I'm not talking here to anyone. I'm using Polkadot interchangeably with blockchain. I'm not about how you build NFTs. If anyone has that question, we can go into that because we're going to talk about the hackathon in a bit. DAOs are obviously the next big thing, and DAOs basically refers to decentralized autonomous organizations. These are basically the public good machines where everyone has a stake in them, that are kind of allocating funds. Basically, companies of the future, and that run based on smart contracts, and it's just basically a governance structure. As simple as. And we won't get too much into it now, but I imagine the company of the future is probably a DAO. It's like something where you don't have shareholders with more than a few percent. Your digital identity is linked. You have a digital identity and account through which you engage with this company and do stuff. You start having, you replace institutions with DAOs, and you give them a structure which is provably democratic and open in a way that, I don't know, schools, the running of a school is not kind of democratic and open, for instance, yet schools are charities and are seen as kind of the major public institutions for our state. Maybe one could hypothesize that you should replace institutions like that with structures that are, I can see who the actors are that run it, and I can kind of vote for them, and I can delegate my vote to other people, and it's built based on a premise of a structure that is fair. Again, I'm not actually making a judgment call out there. I'm just painting what this would look like. Governance, I've already talked about, but this idea that again, if I have one digital identity that's linked to me, I could do just things like digital voting. Again, if I have a token in something, and maybe I start having a token in every part of my life. I own a DAO token for the school, which is used for voting. I own a football token for going to football. For my gym, it's a tokenized thing. And I can use this token, I can either delegate it to someone else to vote on my behalf, or I can actually vote myself. You start to get some really interesting concepts around direct democracy. Direct democracy is a really inefficient form of democracy, by the way. But you can start, democracy is really, the current conception of democracy in the world is incredibly inefficient and not obviously optimal. And I actually did politics. There are very few things I actually know a lot about, but this is actually how democracy emerged, actually is one of them. Effectively, democracy emerged as a reaction to shifting power. So most states in the world started off as kind of dictatorships. As the dictatorships got less popular, they became kind of monarchies. And as monarchies become less popular, they kind of steered into political structures where the voting system is, you vote basically rewards a majority. You need like more than 50% of the vote. And therefore that really only favors having two contenders, because yeah, if you're like, well, you only win if you're going to get to 50%, like I'm probably going to only vote for like the biggest guy or the second biggest guy to have any impact on my votes. And then as these systems get unpopular and more kind of parties emerge, you end up switching to things like first past the post, where this is a system whereby whoever gets the most votes gets power. And then eventually as systems get even more fragmented, you get, again, I'm going very much into democratic theory here, or voting theory, you get things like proportional voting systems where you get power sharing governments. And eventually you've gone from a system where it's completely no one has any say, and as the weakness of the dominating force, as the dominating force gets weaker, you move into more democratic systems and more representative systems. And again, this is like, there are places in the world where democracy doesn't exist. Like, this only kind of, this change only kind of happens because people want it to happen, that power weakens, and that people are forced to change. And what if you built systems instead based on like actual democratic principles that weren't like, well, like this isn't very democratic, let's improve it a little bit, and like, or usually what happens is systems change because the people in power change it to suit their interests, to make sure they still pick a form of governance and democracy that allows them to stay in power. Well, again, I don't think this is the best way. I wouldn't, it does not seem to me to be optimal to build systems based on what suits the majority power, based on how much support they have. Like, I think you can do this better, and crypto companies, because they are crypto protocols and networks, because they're built on this idea that there are lots of actors that are involved in them. No one really has more than a couple of % of the network. Everyone needs to be involved and rally together, and is incentivized to rally together financially for us to do well. I think you can build a better democratic structure based on this assumption. So this I think is a really cool thing that could change. I'm very excited to see how. I don't think governance works perfectly in crypto, but it is really cool, and it does kind of work, and people are very engaged if you want to look at stuff like Snapshot. And a really good example of this is the Polkadot treasury, which this program was funded through, and how that works. And that is a completely democratic system where it's democratically decentralized, organized, decentralized, and money is distributed democratically. And that actually relies on direct democracy of a elected committee who then, I guess it's representative democracy, but a committee who then vote on things to allocate funds to. Anyway, my throat is getting dry. Now, practically nothing is built. I've said all of this. I've given you big plans. It's all been very general. Practically nothing is really built. So in Polkadot, you've got that kind of core infrastructure, the Polkadot network. You've got the parachains, which allow you to build blockchain applications, but very, very little is actually built, bar the basic kind of money markets and like the basic kind of ways to do things. Nothing around identity, voting, DAO structures, governance is really built on Polkadot. So you have an incredible opportunity. Like this is the time to build stuff. Like the technology is there, the primitives are there, and it's quite easy to build stuff, but no one has built it yet. Yes, but normally Clifton, these structures are set up so not many, like the biggest party only has like 5-10%, which is quite different. And you can set them up so people get a very, very small share. So now I'm going to talk about the hackathon. So for those who don't know, this series kind of now folds into the Polkadot Encode Hackathon. And I'm going to split share my screen now to share my screen here. So the Polkadot Encode Hackathon is a 8-week hackathon, which is starting on the 9th of September, where you can build anything you want. We have well over, this is actually much, much bigger. This is actually over 100,000 now. And we haven't announced the challenges, but it's basically build whatever you want with Polkadot. And there are also specific challenges to do with the parachains as well. So you're going to have unlimited opportunities. So build something real world facing, build something crypto facing, use the Polkadot technology to build whatever you absolutely want. And this is an incredibly exciting opportunity. So please go to the website. I'll repaste the link here. And please do sign up for the hackathon and get involved. It's going to be huge. And we follow this with an accelerator that you can use for the best projects to help them become startups and to raise funding. So very, very important. Please be part of the hackathon. You can build incredible, incredible things. to tidy this up after this. Some basic principles of the hackathon. Decide your skill level. Are you technical, non-technical? Are you very technical? Do you know a lot about Polkadot? Are you just a beginner? Pick an aim. Is it that you want to do a startup? Is it learn a new skill? Is it meet friends and meet like-minded people? Is it get a job? We've seen many people get jobs on the back of our hackathons. And how much time do you have? It's an 8-week hackathon. So are you going to spend every day on it? Are you going to spend weekends? Are you going to spend just the last weekend? And after you've decided this, you can then decide what product you want to do and what project you want to make. And again, whatever long-term ambitions you have. So for instance, if you've got you're a good developer that kind of has done this series but doesn't know too much about Polkadot, you just want to learn more and you have weekends free, I would build a basic blockchain on Substrate. This would be my thing. Or maybe answer one of the parent chain challenges. If you were a complete beginner who isn't technical, again, wants to maybe get a job in the space, and you have limited time, I would join a team. We'll have kind of team kind of networking things, and especially on the Discord. So maybe you join a team and you make friends and you use it as an opportunity to learn. Or maybe you are, again, extremely experienced, want to start a startup, have loads of time in the world, build the best thing, build the next thing the Polkadot ecosystem wants, because we have a shit ton of funding to give you to help you become a startup and a big success in the Polkadot ecosystem. My throat is very dry. Thank you everyone for that. That was a whistle stop tour. I will just look at the chat now. So if you have any questions, do put those in now. Otherwise, we'll call it a day there. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's cool. Lots of people working centralized internet access. I guess one thing is actually Wi-Fi provision is quite centralized. That is one thing. So maybe you need decentralized SpaceX that provides the satellites as the infrastructure for global Wi-Fi. What else? How would you want to use blockchain for voting? So I don't know actually if this system, I'll give you an example. Let me just share the screen again. Give me a second. So this is snapshot. So this is a very dumbed down example. Basically what this is, let's take a protocol like Balancer. So this is Ethereum based. I don't know if one exists for Polkadot. I think yes, but it's a little bit less advanced. So these are all proposals, which anyone can propose. And so this is vested payments for something. I don't know what it is. Yes, Ammar, there is one coming out. It'll be released in the next days or so. It'll be both a spreadsheet and a big Medium article. So that's good. And basically, if you own the token, either locked up or in your wallet, whatever it may be, you can vote. One token equals one vote. And then this goes through, and if it gets passed, it's usually linked to a specific transaction that will automatically execute. So this is governance. This is anyone can propose something. Usually when something's proposed, they're paying a Telegram group or a Discord group automatically, and people can vote on it. And if it goes through, money gets allocated or stuff gets done. So this is what voting would look like in a basic sense. And most DAOs use this. But you could obviously think of it a different structure as well. Okay, thank you. So I'm trying to work out who Super4 is. I feel like I know who you are, but I don't know the name. Yeah, go for it. I'd love you to. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, hello everyone. I am Pan from Figment.io. We are a staking provider, and we are Canada-based, but we're kind of decentralized. Regardless of that fact, we vote on a lot of different governance proposals for a lot of different chains. It's a big part of the central point of us being connected to a lot of different networks. And in particular, I am responsible for looking at how it is that we govern our interactions with both Kusama and Polkadot. So how it is that you do it on Polkadot in particular is you are connected to a lot of these different discussion channels, either on Discord or on Element. There's actually a port between Element. It's sort of like a private networking service that ports it from Element to Discord. And that's where a lot of these discussions happen in order to be able to discuss about potential proposals that are put forth and everything like that. So in order to put forward a proposal on Polkadot, there's essentially 3 stages, and the first stage can happen in a couple different ways. So you have a proposal that's put forward. It can either be put forward by the council, or it can be put forward by a public individual, and then it's put to motion when it's sort of accepted by concerned parties. And then when it gets put to motion, the council decides on whether or not it should be put to referendum through seconding mechanisms. And anyone can help me be corrected on this if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's correct as we've been doing it. But we're not a council member, so we're not involved in that part. But then it gets put to the referendum stage. And the referendum stage is what most other protocols call the proposal stage. So the referendum stage is where all of the actual changes that are happening on the Polkadot network are going to be sort of discussed and debated. So you can actually add comments to different referenda on Polkadot, on PolkAssembly, by having an account on PolkAssembly, using your wallet, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where the main body of discussion, more cogent arguments are made for or against a particular case. Then there is also off-chain discussion that happens, actually on the Discord channels as well. And then people use PolkAssembly, or they directly vote on chain in order to support or deny different referenda. So when these referenda are executed, they're usually executed at the end of an era, which is a 28-day period, and then they're put into motion. It depends if it's like, it could also be a runtime upgrade. Those have a shorter term as well. But effectively, that's how it works for Polkadot. You have a particular linear, semi-linear structure for how a proposal becomes a motion, becomes a referendum, and then the public votes on the referendum, and that referendum gets put into motion. And so when we say that the governance is happening on chain, you're talking about people taking their DOT tokens and putting them into the governance mechanism for on Polkadot.js, which is Polkadot's API for interacting with the whole chain, but you can use the governance part of that API to interact with Polkadot governance. And so you go on there, you put up your tokens. There's a complicated way that you can use your tokens to multiply their value. Effectively, if you lock them up for a longer period of time, they have more value. If you lock them up for a shorter period of time, they have less value. And that's effectively how you vote for things. And so the numerical amount matters, but the clearing of the vote dependent on the multiplier of how it is that you've locked up your tokens also matters. So I hope that's a good summary for how governance works on Polkadot. It's the same thing on Kusama effectively. And this is just Polkadot's version, but there are nuances and variations for each different blockchain. So I hope that answers that question.
Couldn't have done it better myself. Thank you very much.
I am our resident governance expert. Well,
I was going to say that was very nice. That was very nicely done, and I can testament to that because we went through exactly that process for funding this program, as I think Figment did as well. For I saw that something through governance went through recently.
Yeah, that was I actually wrote that.
Did you? Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? Someone said, "What is a hackathon?" Would you get a chance to connect with other hackers for the hackathon? Absolutely. So we will. If you sign up, there'll be some early events, some kind of onboarding events to kind of help get teams together. And also dedicated channels in the Discord to do exactly that. So absolutely, we understand that not everyone has a team ready. You can also enter as an individual. But yeah, we will help connect you with teams as well. Actually, a question for you, Pan, because I was actually looking through the Figment Learn platform. When is that going to be? It looks really sexy. I actually discovered it this week. When is that going to be live?
Well, so you can use Learn right now for different developer portals. We're looking to expand it more and more, but effectively the idea behind Learn is supposed to be to develop a Rails system for bringing Web 2 developers into Web 3 space. So nice. You can use it right now. We have different pathways that are available.
Yes, very cool. Pat, would you this is now becoming a little chat. Can you put your email in chat? Because I don't think we're connected. I'd love to have a call another time.
At the risk of being doxxed, why don't
yeah, you could. My email is very public. I'm gonna put it here.
Oh, actually, I'll just go ahead and do it here. Please, no one send me silly things.
Love silly things. Oh, cool. All right, guys. I think that's everything on the questions. Anyone have anything else? Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining the education series. I'm going to repaste a chunk of stuff, and I'll keep the room open for a little bit. Let me give me a second. So all the education events are on the website, and for you to go back and view. We've done this in an 8-event series. We've enjoyed it. Now, this is the hacking bit, which is going to be even more fun. So we look forward to building fantastic things. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact myself on the Discord, and here is my email there. And again, we're grateful for all of you for joining us through this series, and it's been jolly good fun. So looking forward to seeing, hopefully, lots of you build stuff in the hackathon and do an excellent job. In the meantime, everyone, thank you very much for coming. Have a good rest of the day wherever you are, and see you all on the Discord and in the hackathon.